Good morning, good morning, good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Let me tidy my screen up a bit because we don't have that thing on there. We have that gone. We do occasionally have that though. Good morning, everyone. How are we doing? I know Gary has just asked how I am. Not a good day to ask. I reckon I had about 2 hours sleep last night. Went to bed, tired, expected to go to sleep, and no, wasn't having it. You ever get the feeling when you're laying in bed that there's beetles or bugs or something crawling all over you? I just couldn't get comfortable, itching my nose, itching my head, itching my ass. It's just awful. So I ended up coming downstairs to sleep on the sofa. Not the most comfortable place in the first place, but then I completely forgot. We've got a fish tank in our front room that's on a timer. The lights come on at about 6 o'clock in the morning. So I was laying there this morning, fast asleep, and then all of a sudden the entire room is illuminated with fish. It's just what you need after no sleep. But good morning, everyone. Mark Whiting is in the house. Morning, Mark. How are you doing, my friend? I've got a joke for you today. I'll do it in a minute when a few more people have pitched up in the chat. There's Dan Cullen. Good morning, Dan. Yeah, as I say, I'll do the joke in a moment. And Chris Ford's here as well. Good morning, morning, boys. The job's a fish. Okay. Yesterday, you will remember I was talking about Atlas. Atlas Group or Atlas Cranes, Atlas Excavators, and the fact that they've applied for insolvency protection. As part of that video, you may recall that there was talk about them potentially having 400 jobs at risk. People in the factory, people in the parts department, and so on. Obviously a major deal. Weirdly, yesterday afternoon, I had a couple of people over on our Demolition Insider website follow me from atlascranes.co.uk or Atlas Cranes, but they're based in the UK. Now, I don't know if they're wholly owned or whether they just taken the name of the company whose products they sell, but it set me thinking. We talk about 400 job losses. Obviously, that is at the factory and at the various depots and everything else. But what about the wider implication? I mean, I don't know how many people Atlas Cranes in the UK employ. A dozen, 20? I genuinely have no idea at all. But then imagine you replicate that across 30, 40, 100 different countries where Atlas is sold. And even if it's not the actual dealership, even if they're sold in other locations through a dealer that has other brands as well, could still have an effect. You imagine you spent the last 10, 20, 30 years as a salesperson specializing in Atlas, or you're a fitter who knows Atlas equipment back to front and upside down. And then lo and behold, something goes awry and potentially you're not doing that anymore. I wonder what the true figure would be of job losses should Atlas, hopefully not, but should they go the wrong way. I thought it was the excitement of going to Las Vegas that you couldn't sleep. Disney syndrome. No, I don't. I don't suffer with that at all. In actual fact, I'm the complete opposite. Complete opposite. When Vegas finally rolls around, my family were doing very well if they kicked me awake all the way onto the plane, because once I'm there, that's it, game over. Ken Hatcher has got Jesus, he's got all the weathers, and I see he's hopped on the AI caricature trend. Well done, Ken. And Jim Turner is here as well. Morning, peeps. Good morning. I think we've got, almost a full contingent of people here. So I've got a quick joke for you. I heard this morning, and because I'm very childish and very stupid, it did make me laugh. Before we go any further, let me just very quickly say good morning to Ian Lewandowski. Yes, good morning, Ian. Good morning, good morning. I hope to see you in ConExpo, sir. For those that don't know, that guy there, Mr. Attachment. Trust me, he really is. So, I heard this joke this morning. I've got my earpods in today. Wow, I never knew the machine was so noisy. They do amplify, don't they? They do amplify. Anyway, yeah, all of that aside. A couple have got together and they are about to see each other naked for the first time. I can't think of a more subtle way to put it. So they're about to see each other naked for the first time. So the fella takes off his socks and his toes are a mess. They're all pointing in different directions. He's missing one. They're a bit discoloured. And the woman is a little shocked. She says, "Oh my God, what, what happened to your toes?" And he said, "Oh, when I was younger, I had a really bad case of polio." And she said, "Don't you mean polio?" He said, No, I had polio." So she tries to ignore it. He takes his trousers off and his knees are a mess. And she's like, "Oh my God, whatever happened to your knees?" And he said, "Well, when I was younger, I had a very, very bad case of measles." And she said, Do you not mean measles?" He said, No, I had measles." Wow. Anyway, guy stands up, takes off his boxers, and the woman bursts out laughing. And she says, "Let me guess, smallcocks." Sorry. Gary Muirhead saying, I see there's a 150 flood warning for 150 flood warnings. Yeah, quite. I mean, we're doing okay here, thankfully. Up a hill, not a river for miles. We'll get some rain, but won't really affect us too much. But yeah. Crystal says, "Sounds like the joke is up my street." Well, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it. Ken Hatcher saying, "No, the Apple AirPods Pro 3 make it much quieter." Well, they're noise cancelling, aren't they? So yes, they would. And our friend Khalid, who apparently is taking the opportunity to advertise car tech expert diagnostic tools for every heavy equipment machines. Thank you for that. Are you going to be here every day advertising your wares? If you are, do you want to send us some money? Because that's how these things normally work. I'm just saying out loud. Anyway, people, yes, bizarrely, Ian Lewandowski, who was here just a moment ago from LinkedIn, he's also watching over on Instagram as well. Yeah. Mr. Shearcore, good morning, Ian. Wherever you're watching, whichever camera I'm looking at, good morning, welcome. Should we crack on? I think we probably should, because that joke is wasn't the best, I grant you. Little things amuse little minds. Loved it, says Chris. Smallcocks. Let me take this away because we don't need to know that. Just very quickly, I've had a response back from our friend Ian, who, for those of you who don't know, Ian is based over in the States. He's with the company Shearcore. He's not watching from the States today. He's over in Australia. G'day. G'day, Ian. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Right, okay. It is. What is it? It's Wednesday, the 11th of February. Is it the 11th? Feels like about the 11th. It is the 11th. Yes, it's Wednesday, the 11th of February. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming, and the authentic voice of the demolition industry. In today's show, we're going off to the wilds of Alaska with the mighty Hitachi, how Liebherr plans to power the future, and we're getting rather attached to Bell. Incidentally, I mentioned Liebherr there, which is how you're supposed to say it, apparently. Thanks very much indeed for that video that you sent over yesterday, Gary, with somebody trying to sell a Libra excavator. How much would you trust a salesman that couldn't even pronounce the name of the machine he stood in front of? Less, I would suggest. In addition to all of that awful nonsense that we've got coming up, our MB Crusher sponsored Countdown to Connexpo series continues. Got a new intro for that, and we're heading off to Vegas with Dynaset. Plus, in today's edition of Mark's Morning Monologue, a world turned upside down. That's what we're talking about. Ken Hatcher saying, "Thought you'd be at the Exec Hire show." No. No. Did one. I don't know, 8-9 years ago. Bearing in mind, I'm assuming it's still in Coventry. I drove 2.5 hours to get there. I reckon I'd seen everything I needed to see in about an hour. So I jumped in the car and came home again. all a bit too small plant-wise. I mean, I think the show's well organised and stuff like that, but the plant is a bit too small, and it's not, whereas Conexpo and Bauma and Intermat and Samota will be, launch pads for equipment. Here's what we've already got. Here's thing. Very rarely do you get anything launched there. I know JCB occasionally drop a new machine, but it's usually a variation on a theme. It's not a brand new machine. So no, not my cup of tea at all. And our friend Carden is still trying. Don't make me block you, fella, because we have paid adverts on this show, not freebies. So just bear that in mind. I think I've done all the build up that I need to do. Let's have a bit of Caterpillar, and then we're off to Alaska with Hitachi. We'll go to Alaska in a second, but first of all, Ken Hatcher says, bit like the Welsh construction show. Never been, and for the same reason, long way to go for probably not a lot. Gary says, how's Lucani? Has she found some new employment? I don't think she needs to find some new employment. Plantworks was only part of her gig. She's still working with the CEA, which is how she came to be doing Plantworks in the first place. She's doing work with the Exec Hire Show as well. She does some work with X-Watch. There may be something else lurking. Data Tag, the Caesar scheme. She does a bit with them as well. So she's fine. She's absolutely fine. Dan says, wonder, does he understand English? Well, he writes in pretty good English, but yeah, we're not in the business of doing unpaid adverts. Anyway, Dan, this one's kind of for you because we're going to Alaska where it's a tad chilly. And I know you like that kind of thing. So even though it's Hitachi and I know you're not a fan, sit back, 6 minutes of Hitachi in the wilds of Alaska.
My name is Aaron Bartel. My partner and I, Nate Haynes and myself, our dad started the company back in around 1980, 1982. In 2013, my partner bought his dad out, and in 2020, I bought my dad out. And now we're here in the second generation. I grew up running Hitachis, both remote places and at work. And then ever since I took over, we've been exclusive Hitachis. In a summer, we average about 100 projects. In terms of acreage, I think this is a 20-acre project. The cut and fills, I think we're moving somewhere around probably 20,000 yards of dirt on this project. The thing is that's not a lot of dirt. In the big scheme of things, they'll move 1 million yards in a day at a big mine, right? With one of your big Hitachis. But when you look at where we're at, you're not getting one of those big Hitachis up here. We're up on the side of a mountain. We had to go through 15 switchbacks to get here, so we're very limited on how big of equipment we can bring. When you look at it that way, then 20,000 yards is actually a lot of dirt. We're building a subdivision. We just started this actually yesterday, so this is day 2. Right now we're clearing and grubbing with those, so they're just taking all the unusable, thrown onto the side. Our substantial completion on this will be 50 days. It's completely weather dependent, so we have clients ask me this all the time, and I tell them, call up Mother Nature and ask her, because I'm not in control. I just work here. It kind of fits in with our schedule in Alaska, our construction season. Everything's kind of this way. We don't have a lot of time to sit or we call it island time. We don't have island time here. We can't think about it. We got to go. I would say our whole employee roster, but specifically even operators, is very diverse, which is something we're very proud of. And you just got to give people a place to grow and a place to be safe and learn and someplace they can thrive, and it's amazing what they can do.
Hitachi is doing all of the work here. Basically, from start to finish, the excavator will be on site, starting with stripping the grubbing to loading rock trucks, and then it will be here all the way up till we do finish grade. So the Hitachi as a digger is quite good. I mean, obviously the bigger the machine, the easier it goes. As you see, we like the big. I've used almost every machine available at some point or another in my career. I personally prefer the Hitachi. It is a very smooth operating machine, very easy to use. It's got all the bells and whistles, and it does the work it needs to be done.
I do think Hitachi's still got a little bit more power. They're a little bit, I think, faster in this size machine. I do like the overall stability of the machine. They're balanced well. The stability in the machine is super important in order for speed. When we're digging around utilities, we're digging around a lot of important stuff. Be able to feel something in a 350, 245 size machine where I can feel there's a 2-inch line in the ground is very, I think, critical, and Hitachis are very, very good with that. The feedback is from everyone. They like them because they are comfortable to run. They got the power that they want and then the speed that they want. So nobody likes running a slow machine because they get bored. I can complain about a lot of other machines and brands, but I really don't have any for Hitachi. So
This tree is in my way, so I'm gonna hopefully try to push it over. It's got a lot of power to it that 350 does, and if you position yourself back far enough and up high enough, you can use the hydraulics and the weight of the machine to just tip them right over.
So it's no secret, I mean, there's other excavators, right? So far what we've came back to is it's the best value. They're not the cheapest and they're not the most expensive. I think they're probably the most valuable. So for the checks we write, I think we get the most iron out of that check. You know, I think that they're probably the premier excavator. They've been making them a long time. So they got the controls feel better, their production's good. I would say it fits in with our business model, quality, right? We're not the cheapest, we're not the most expensive, but we try to offer a really good quality product and something we can all stand behind. My dad started buying Hitachis in the early 80s, so we've got a relationship with CMI since, before I was alive. I have their cell phone numbers and they're willing to answer my phone calls and help us out with problems. We've yet to come across a problem that we couldn't solve.
If you answer their call and you're willing to work with them, they're going to keep coming back, and it's trust. It's period. It's the end of the story. Watching Aaron and Nate go to school and come back with their degrees and then take over the company. They worked for a while under the guise of their dads, built in some character. And they are characters, let me tell you that.
I take that as a compliment. So we try to grow in areas like expertise. We try to grow our equipment, our fleet, our maintenance. We try to grow our knowledge. A lot of us are in this boat of trying to educate the next generation and trying to get younger people in. So that's where we have a lot of our focus in growing right now.
yeah, I really like working for BC Excavating because we have a really tight-knit group of people. Right now, I would say BC's probably pretty much in its prime. A lot of the guys are really awesome to work with. They're good people, which makes it really fun to work with and for.
Well, I'm hoping to retire from BC Excavating, so I'm here for the long term. I believe, and I'm hoping that they look at me as, the next generation.
I'd like to see the world left a little better than I found it, would probably be a good way to put it. Both through work and private, through my own actions. So we do a fair bit of charity work as a company. We've done some pretty healthy community projects in our past and recent past. The world has plenty of problems. Our goal is to try to maybe solve a few of them, just a few.
Bit of catching up to do in the chat. Ken Hatcher said Lou Carney is off to Las Vegas. She's actually over there with X-Watch. So I don't know if our paths will cross. Big show, but it may well do. May well do. Ken spotted the fact that the guys at BC Excavating had their sprockets the wrong way round. Eagle-eyed Ken, as ever. Great to see them buying out and keeping it in the family. I bet they'd have, if they had Devil on, JCB Cabelco, there'd be different outtakes. I wonder if there would. I wonder if there'd be different takeaways. Ken Hatcher enjoying the Hitachi, not a bad machine. Dan, funny how the thumb never took off in the UK. It's a weird thing, isn't it? I kind of sit on the fence. Whenever I go to the States and you actually see, when we were over at Mine Expo, we were staying fairly close to a demolition site and they had a thumb on. And you look at it and you think, that makes perfect sense. Why would you not? And then you come back here and you see the way that we kind of vary our attachments. You start, Actually, why would we want to? But very strange that we, speak the same language, and yet when it comes to equipment, we speak vaguely different languages. Weird how it all works out. Anyway, let's have a bit of this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Now, between us girls, I've got a call at about noon today, having a call with somebody from Plantworks. Still not planning to go, but they want to pick my brains a bit, see what they say. One of the things I want to tell them, because they do seem to be a little bit detached, as it were, as it stands at the moment, is we are on the cusp. I think we all know we're on the cusp of a switch from diesel to something else. And one of the other things that we're likely to factor into our futures will be hydrogen. And one of the people at the forefront of that, not surprisingly, is Liebherr.
For over a century, the internal combustion engine has been at the heart of our machines in many industries. And as the world moves towards more sustainable solutions, this technology has not said its last word. Today, innovation is redefining what we thought possible, developing a combustion engine that is cleaner, more efficient, and as reliable as ever. Hydrogen is emerging as a promising alternative. By adapting combustion engines to burn this clean fuel, we are drastically reducing CO2 emissions while retaining the performance and robustness of combustion engines. What if we went even further? Our components team dove deep into research, exploring ammonia as a dual fuel source for internal combustion engines, easy to store and transport, and containing no carbon. The result, a major step forward toward a greener, more efficient future.
If it's in Liebherr's hands, I'm willing to trust it. Dan says, now here's a question, but I haven't got the question yet. While he's typing that, I've got a question for you. Something occurred to me last night. Back in 2019, I went with the European Demolition Association to Japan on a fact-finding mission to find out how the Japanese go about demolition. Visited a couple of sites, went to some of the manufacturers, attachment manufacturers, excavator manufacturers. Last year, middle of last year, I did the same thing again in Italy. We went to a couple of sites. We went to equipment manufacturers, attachment manufacturers, and here's the thing for you: if we, the royal we, if we were to organise a fact-finding mission to the UK, aside from a visit to JCB and a visit to Thwaites, perhaps, what would we show them? If we had a contingent of Americans, Japanese, Europeans coming here and they wanted to learn how to do demolition, construction, earth moving, groundworks, whatever, better than they currently do, what would we show them? What is the best of the best in the UK in terms of methodology? What would we show them that might send them away thinking, cool, those Brits are bloody smart? While you're thinking about that, here is who was the actual founder of hydrogen? Well, I don't think hydrogen had a founder. It's an element that's about. But who is the first, JCB or Liebherr? I remember saying back in the day that it looked like it was going to be a 3-horse race: JCB, Liebherr, and Hyundai. Now I know. I would imagine that there's plenty going on within Komatsu and Caterpillar. I know Hitachi are working on it. I know Volvo have got their own hydrogen laboratory and stuff like that. But I said it was a 3-horse race, and if you remember rightly, I actually predicted that the first across the line would be JCB. You can apparently buy a hydrogen powered JCB right here, right now. I don't know how you'd fuel it unless you happen to be working in an area right next door to some sort of hydrogen outlet. But yeah, I think JCB are the first across the line. But who actually started the trend, wouldn't like to say. Dan says, we could show them Sweet FA. It's weird, that, isn't it? When you think back, I mean, I'm thinking more specifically perhaps about Demolition here. You go back 20, 30 years, we were the dog's doodahs. We were the benchmark for the entire world. Our guidance notes were copied. Even things like the Articles of Association from the NFDC were borrowed and replicated over in the States. We were the pinnacle. We were the people to aim at. We were the aspirational. Now, don't get me wrong, I still think we've got some very, very good demolition contractors here. I think Armac could show just about anybody in the world how to take down a bridge. I think some of the work that's being done explosive-wise with PDC, Cormac McLean and Williams and Clare up at SafeDem, I think they would be world-class. I genuinely believe that. But beyond that, is there much? If anyone can think of anything, I'd love to hear from you. While you're mulling that over, let's have a bit of this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Something's just popped up in the chat before I get to the next film. No NFDC worth showing. No kit to other manufacturers. Any different? Nothing beyond the reputation of some of the demolition companies. Yeah, I think you're right. I do think you're right. I think it's sad. In some ways, it's kind of like football, isn't it? It's a game we largely invented and perfected, and we ruled the world back in 1966, and now everybody else seems to do it maybe just a bit better. It's weird. If I said to you the name Bell Equipment, you'd probably think of ADTs. You might think of graders. If you're in the logging business, you might think of some of their weird and squiffy wheel loaders as well. But did you know they did attachments? You live and learn, build new attachments. Who knew? We're off to think about all things related to ConExpo in a moment. Do want to give a very quick shout out though. Obviously, we've been doing for about a month. We've been doing our voyage to Vegas, which was just us doing it. I'm delighted to say that we've now got a sponsor for this part of the show, and they're not just doing this show. We're going to be working with the people you're about to see for ConExpo, for Samota, and also for Hillhead, which I'm absolutely delighted about. So they're an existing sponsor, but they've extended their sponsorship, if you like. So enjoy. So, MB Crusher are sponsoring our voyage to Vegas, and our voyage to Vegas continues with Dynaset. Looking forward to catching up with them. Dynaset, if you're watching, love one of your hats. Haven't got one of those yet. Here's, I'm going to, before I go over to it, I'm going to say very quickly, this was not prompted in any way, but this is quite a strange turnaround. Dan Cullen says the NFDC was once reputable, but they've gone to the dogs with greed, not getting involved in investigations on serious accidents, and not helping the families of those affected. Okay. He then goes on to say, I'll show it to you in a second. Some years ago, I was ranting, I think is probably the word, ranting about the level of accidents, fatalities in the industry. And one of the NFDC's almighty took to LinkedIn to tell everyone what he thought of me. And he said, people should have nothing to do with me because Mark Anthony is a disgrace to the industry. I've got thick skin. You don't be a 40-year journalist without getting a thick skin. Laughed it off, not a problem. But look at this, how we've come full circle. Dan Cullen, NFDC, an utter disgrace to the industry, in my opinion. How the tables have turned, eh? How the tables have turned. And Dan saying, well done, Mark and Fred. Got to be honest, Fred had very little to do with that. But yeah, well done to us. It helps keep the lights on. It helps pay for our travel to Las Vegas and stuff like that. So yeah, thanks to MB Crusher. They really have been a fantastic supporter of us over well, basically since we started. They've shown an enormous amount of faith in us with what we do, almost to the point where, you know, if we can show them that the numbers stack up, they will back it, which is a fantastic thing to have. So thank you to Alessia and the entire team over at MB Crusher. It means the world. It really does. Anyway, people, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into our morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very, very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I will be back after this. In most industries, That's a good start. In most industries, the person who does the most important work gets paid the most. A surgeon earns more than a hospital porter. A football striker generally earns more than his manager. In construction and demolition, however, we've managed to flip that logic on its head. We've built a system where the further you are from the site, the more money you make, and the longer you get to hold on to the cash before passing it down to the people who actually earned it. At the top of the construction food chain sits the Tier 1 contractor. They don't own any excavators, they don't get their boots dirty, assuming they actually own any. They win multi-million-pound projects based on glossy brochures and AI renders showing a pristine clinical demolition and construction process. They promise the client a seamless journey from implementation to completion. But in reality, they're a glorified clearinghouse. They break the project into pieces, shave a healthy margin off the top for the management of the process that they don't actually perform, and then they look for the lowest bidder to do the heavy lifting. And this is where the whole upside down world becomes truly predatory. The Tier 1 firm is usually the most liquid entity in the chain, yet they operate as if they are perpetually broke. The specialist subcontractors, the firms providing the men and the machines, are the ones who actually fund the project. These firms carry massive overheads paying for fuel, insurance, and wages every Friday while they wait 60, 90, or even 120 days for a Tier 1 to release the cash. That pay when paid mentality might be legally frowned upon, but under the guise of administrative delays, valuation disputes, or retentions, it still remains the industry standard. The smallest companies in the supply chain are effectively acting as interest-free banks for the largest corporations in the industry. And that absurdity extends to the way we handle safety and the law. We now have a system of corporate manslaughter where culpability is designed to flow upward. On paper, that sounds like accountability, but in practice, it's a farce. If there is a fatal accident on site, the legal crosshairs move straight to the boardroom. You could end up with a situation where a managing director who has not set foot on a live site in 3 years is technically liable for a systemic failure. Meanwhile, at the coalface, the reality is very different. We see a culture of tick box safety. The Tier 1 insists on endless inductions and safety posters, yet the commercial pressure they put on the subcontractor is actually what creates the danger. When you squeeze a firm on price and then squeeze them on the timeline as well, you're choosing speed over safety. But when it goes wrong, the Tier 1 points to the method statement and claims the workers on the ground were the people at fault. They want the credit for the speed, but none of the blame for the shortcuts that the speed requires. The most biting irony is this. A project worth £100 million is planned to the millimetre by project managers earning six-figure salaries. They use sophisticated software to track every nut and bolt. Yet when the actual work begins, the success of that entire investment often rests on a single person, an excavator operator hired through an agency at the 11th hour. A person who is being paid barely above minimum wage, has no job security beyond the end of the week, is the one holding the structural integrity of the entire project in his hands. If he makes a mistake, the project fails. If he hits a service, the site and possibly a large chunk of the city shuts down. The Tier 1's crack team of managers are basically spectators the moment the engine starts. They've spent millions on planning, but they've outsourced the actual execution to the cheapest possible person they could find on a Tuesday morning. We point at the medical profession and question why a suit-wearing administrator is earning 5 times more than the nurses mopping up the blood. Yet we are equally culpable, equally guilty. Our industry is inverted. We've created a world where the person who signs the insurance policy is considered more vital and more valuable than the person who ensures that the building doesn't fall down. We know that if every project manager in the City of London stayed in bed tomorrow, the work would still get done. But if the warm body in the excavator decides not to show up, the whole house of cards collapses. This industry is standing on its head, supported by the very people it treats with the most contempt. We're living in a world where the view from the top is only possible because of the people we've buried at the bottom. Sometimes literally. There you are. That is called A World Turned Upside Down, because frankly, that is precisely what it feels like. Imagine that. That part at the end there. You've got a 100 million, 200 million, 500 million pound project. You've got tier one contractors, project managers, project coordinators, all these multiple layers. But the person that is actually delivering on the promises made in their fancy presentations and their brochures and their AI renders is a bloke who may or may not have ever actually got an O-level in his life. That's a GCSE to you lot. Is being paid as close to minimum wage as is legally allowable, has no job security, and could be let go at a moment's notice. But that entire project hinges upon him. You think about that from a demolition perspective. We've got a tower block to build, but we need to take down what's already in its place. And you've got property developers and clients and tier ones sat there twiddling their thumbs, and it all comes down to a bloke, a hairy ass bloke in a machine cab taking down a structure. As I say, earning something close to minimum wage, despite his undeniable skill. It's all a bit arse about face, isn't it? The other bit of that I will never tire of talking about until something changes, frankly, is this balancing act between speed and safety. I think I mentioned it yesterday. If I go to a site and I'm watching somebody driving an excavator, a dozer, a wheel loader, I'm not an expert. I can't do it myself, but if I watch an excavator operator and he's very slow and methodic, not slow to the point of unproductive, but slow, methodical, is clearly thinking one or two steps ahead, keeping an eye on what's going on around him, is set his site up properly, for maximum safety, maximum productivity, but he's really slow and calculating. Everything is strategic. To my mind, that's a good operator. But to a tier one, to a client, to a property developer, he would be considered too slow. Get a move on. Crack the whip, get a move on. If you're currently moving 100 tons an hour, move 200. Don't spend so much time looking around. Don't spend so much time checking over your machine. Don't spend so much time organizing trucks and stuff like that. Just get on with the job. Get on with the job. And then, should an accident happen, where are those people that were cracking the whip? Nowhere to be seen. What do we have here over in chat? That is so true. Very well written. This is where the actual men on the ground get fuck all, and all these wallies just out of college get more than a 20-year veteran. Yeah. In some ways, I don't even. I mean, it is down to money. I mean, I do think the people that are actually delivering these multi-million pound jobs are of greater value than they are currently considered. But I think there's also a respect part of it as well. We look at the high and mighty tier ones, and aren't they fantastic with their fancy London office headquarters, and and their AI renders, and their all of the stuff that goes with being a tier one these days. But they are just a broker, basically, aren't they? The people doing the actual work. I always fall back on a football analogy. We've been fortunate in this country to witness some very, very good managers. Sir Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger, Pep Guardiola, Jose Mourinho, all of those people. But none of them ever kick the ball in the net, which is why, your Wayne Rooney's and your Cristiano Ronaldo's get paid top dollar, because what they do very well is they deliver. They put the ball in the back of the net. Well, is that not what a digger driver does? Are they not putting the ball in the back of the net? If they don't, the best you can hope for is the construction equivalent of a draw or a loss. The industry is entirely reliant upon the very people that are in the chat right now, and yet they are the last consideration, often treated with something very, very close to contempt, despite the pivotal role that they play in every demolition and every construction project. Which makes you wonder, when you think about the possible rise of autonomy. I think while we, amongst us, are talking about the potential for job losses and job rationalisation, you're currently operating one machine, but we're going to put you in office so you can operate 3 at a time. So 2 of your colleagues no longer have a job. We're talking about that as, the negative impact that could have on livelihoods and the ability to earn a salary. You'd have to think there's probably tier ones, major contractors, property developers out there that are literally rubbing their hands together. We won't be beholden to those hairy ass digger drivers anymore. We'll just program a machine to do the job for us. Yeah. They've not been on the site in their life, but now they're earning thousands more than the guys on the ground. Why don't they give bonuses to the men on the floor, not the guys in the office? Yeah, I have a real problem with that. When I say I have a problem with that, I have a problem in that I agree with Dan. When you think about, let's go back to our analogy about the construction of a tower block, but we've got to remove something first. Demolition contractor is given 6 weeks to do the job, delivers on time, eventually gets paid. Maybe there's a bit wrapped up in retentions, despite the fact that the building is on the floor. And then the job begins with the piling and the steel and all the things that go with it. So the demolition contractor in this instance has got that job off to a flying start. They've delivered on time. Not just that, but they've set the tone in terms of environmental stewardship, mental health awareness, community liaison, minimizing vibration, minimizing noise, minimizing dust. They've basically done everything that they were required to do and possibly a bit more. And they've set the tone for the entire project. Another contractor, the piling contractor, picks up where they left off and they continue it. And then the steel erectors come along and they continue it. And here we are, 18 months later. There's a big topping out ceremony where the great and the good arrive in their suits and their shirts and their ties, and they quaff champagne and pat each other on the back on a job well done. Where are the demolition crew that put that on the ground? Where's the piling contractor that put the piles in the ground? Where's the steel erectors that actually built the frame of that building that you're now stood on top of, congratulating yourselves? Where are they? Because frankly, without any of those, the place that you're stood right now would basically be a disused building because the demolition contractor didn't take it down. So the piling contractor couldn't do their thing. The steel erectors couldn't do theirs. And yet when it comes to the end of it, the people that actually delivered are absent. Going back to my football analogy, imagine that. You get to the end of the season. It's looking increasingly likely that Arsenal will be crowned Premier League champions this year. Not the best year for football, I don't think, but I think they're about 9 points clear or thereabouts at the moment. So let's say we fast forward to the end of May and they are crowned Premier League champions. And you've got a couple of their players have scored 25 goals each, and their defence has been impenetrable. Their goalkeeper has kept them, and they go to collect their medals, but the players are not invited. They send the owner of the club and the coach and the coaching staff to go and pick up their medals, but they leave the players on the sideline. It's such a ridiculous analogy because you know it would never happen. And yet, that is precisely what we as an industry do. We fail to recognize the people that deliver the project. And I just want to go. I've got a couple of things in the chat there. I will go over to in a moment, but I want to go back to that idea of hiring somebody at the 11th hour, warm bodies, hiring through agencies. You have sold, as a tier one or a property developer, you have sold the banks or the developer or whoever, you've sold them this magical dream, this great glass and steel monolith that will nearly reach the sky. It will have everything anyone could ever want. It will be environmentally friendly. It'll be self-heating and self-cleaning. It will be the most magnificent place to live or to work that anyone could ever imagine. And the reason that you're so excited about it is because you've entrusted that remarkable project to an absolute Premier League world champion construction company who will take the responsibility of that off your hands, and they will deliver it back to you in a year, 2 years, 3 years time, fulfilling your dreams. And they walk out of the office with the contract, with a big check, and they hand responsibility of that to somebody that they employed through an agency that they've never met, who may or may not be a truly competent digger driver. Really? Chris says, don't forget that them in high places have screwed the man that employs the operator to the brink of extinction, and all the red tape hoops jump through. Yeah. It's absolutely true. And this is kind of a combination of what we were talking about yesterday, but also what we're talking about today. We want you to do this and this and this, and you will do it this way, not that way. You'll do that. You'll do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Here's a set of rules that you must abide by to the letter. We will be auditing you on speed, performance, productivity. We will expect you to employ local people because that's part of our social value shtick. We will expect you to employ apprentices. Don't put them on our job, but employ apprentices. We want you to invest in mental health awareness. We want you to invest in environmental stewardship and prove it. We want you to issue a statement on the fact that you are not breaching modern slavery rules. We want you to do all of that. But we're going to hang on to all of your money. If that happened in your private life, how long would you put up with that? An hour? And yet we, as an industry, we line up to do that time and time and time again. I mentioned in that spiel just now the fact that the specialists and the subcontractors are basically that they're effectively an interest-free loan for those above them, but it runs deeper than that. Yes, the subcontractor has got to pay for fuel and wages and insurance and transport and all of those kind of things, but they are also required, as I said, to invest in this, invest in that, pay for this, pay for that. We as a major contractor, we expect you to employ a mental health awareness or a mental health first aider at your cost. All right. Okay. Well, but maybe we needed one anyway. That seems like a fairly reasonable request. So you go out to the market and you find somebody that's really good at their job and you're paying them 60, 70 grand a year. And while you're paying them 60, 70 grand a year, that major contractor has got your wages in their hand, and you cannot pry that hand open with a crowbar. They will basically part with your money, not their money, your money, only at the threat of legal action. Not much of a two-way street, that, is it? Treated with next to disrespect for the hours and work we do to help companies progress and get no thanks or handshakes. Yeah. Listen, I mean, none of us go to work for nothing. But not even a thank you? Because that's what we're talking about. We don't even get that. Not a thank you. In actual fact, what you tend to get, depending on what part of the process you're in during the delivery of a major construction project, what you actually get is, are you done? Good. Now fuck off, because we're going to do something else. Not, cheers, lads. Good job. Here's a few quid. Go and have a drink on us or whatever. No. No. What they actually do is, are you done? Good. You're running late. Now piss off and let us get on with something else. You're getting in our way. But then a fortnight later, they'll be on the phone. Do you want to come and have a look at this job? Oh yeah, I really cannot wait to work for somebody who disrespected me for the entire duration of the job and withheld my money. Dan says, thinking about it, I think we are the slaves that these companies tell us we're not worth, not us telling them what we're worth and can do. Yeah. It is. Sorry, something's just come through here. I've no idea who that's from. No idea what that's from. Yeah, okay. So that's where we are. That's exactly where we are. And when you think about, the multi millions involved in construction now, and I realise, in many instances the margins are pretty thin, but you can't find another couple of £100 for a digger driver who actually made that project possible. And how have you possibly got the nerve to tell that guy who, as I say, delivered the project precisely as you wanted it, on time, on budget, come hell or high water, you're telling him he's not worth another couple of quid from the comfort of your Bentley? Not great, is it? Not great at all. If you would like to read that, if you'd like to share that, you can find it over on Demolition Insider in about a minute and a half's time. It's called A World Turned Upside Down. Enjoy. It'll also be over on LinkedIn should you wish to share it far and wide. I'd love you to do that. We've had a bit of a boost, really, actually, over on Demolition Insider. Things have kind of kicked off. I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe it's just sheer volume of stuff we've got over there. We're close to 1,000 articles now over there, and they do just seem to, just seem to be popping off at the moment. We're all just numbers. 6 months after we pass, no one will give a fuck. I'm not even sure it would take 6 months. I think those, those that work closest to your mates at work and stuff, should you not turn up for work one day because you're being fitted for a wooden overcoat, I think they'd miss you. I reckon if you, in many instances, I think if your boss got wind of the fact that you just turned your toes up, 30 seconds before on the phone trying to replace you, if that. Many a job been on for months, didn't get a thank you for being here early every morning, and to this day even a call. Shower of unpleasant people, and I even get them a dozen men to work and not even a few quid yet. Yep. And for the love of God, don't ever suggest any improvements. If we did this would make life easier. Oh, troublemaker, get rid. It's a weird old industry we're working in, isn't it? Anywho, people, I've got to go and prep for my call a bit later on. There's Dan saying, have a great day, guys. I shall echo the wisdom of Mr. Cullen. Have a great day. I will be back here at 10 a.m. on the morrow for yet more of the same. No idea what I'm going to be talking about. I'm sure something will occur to me. One of these days, I will actually turn up with nothing ready for you, and I'll just make it up as I go along. I wonder if anyone would notice. Till then, everybody, have a good day. Enjoy yourselves.